there, I'm going to share with you now some tips on how to both cure blisters and to prevent them, which doesn't involve lots of expensive blister plasters or dousing your feet for hours in disgusting surgical spirits to toughen up the skin. So as an athlete, I used to suffer terribly with blisters, and it was pretty much around about this time of year. I'd go away on, warm weather training camp. My feet would get quite sweaty and hot, and then I'd be wearing spikes, and those two things combined, as I say, they just led to horrendous blisters. And yeah, if you've ever seen the Austin Powers movie, I can't remember which one, but the one there, you've got that Dutch guy who peels bits of skin off his head and he goes, "It's Shopkeeper." I don't know why I'm telling you this, but effectively that's what used to happen with my feet, like the chunks of skin that used to come loose. It was just awful. So anyway, I'm a classy lady really. But yeah, so trust me, I'm experienced when it comes to blisters. And you might just think, oh, it's only like blisters, get on with it. But seriously, like the pain that they cause and the way that they change the way that you run, it's something that you really do have to pay attention to, otherwise it can cause all sorts of other problems. So whether it's in changing your mechanics or even, if it gets infected as well, which one of my friends on a camp once, that happened to her, and like it, she got this big line going up her leg from her foot, showing like the infection had taken hold, and oh yeah, she was really, really poorly for a while. So yeah, keep watching to find out how to cure and prevent. Okay, so first of all, if you do have a blister, now some people say not to pop them, but I say definitely do pop them, okay, because you want to relieve some of that pressure. It's like the pocket of fluid really that's causing a lot of the pain. So either with a pin or like a scalpel, make sure that it is disinfected though. Okay, I used to get a safety pin and then put it on a flame in the kitchen stove, and I'd make sure I get rid of all the germs that way. Then yeah, pop it and then lash on loads of antiseptic cream, or Savlon's got a quite good spray that I used to spray on it as well. And then yeah, try and keep it out in the open as much as possible, just to let it dry out. But if that's not possible, and particularly obviously when you're running, you want to try and protect it a little bit as well. What I found that gave it the most comfort was if I got a melanin pad. They're those sort of like little, not really foam, but I'll explain in a second, like a pad that just gave it some cushioning, and then I would put some tape over. Okay, so I can explain a bit more now, because if you don't have a melanin pad, which I ran out of once on a camp, then using my resourcefulness, I discovered that using a sanitary towel can work quite well as well. So just cut it up to the shape and size you want it. Obviously put it like the soft side down on there, and then lock it in place with, I use this kind of tape here. It's only £1 from Poundland if you're lucky enough to find it. And then yeah, that just secures it. And the beauty of like the sorry, I just dropped it, of the melanin pad or the sanitary towel, is that you've got the padding, but also it sort of will stick to the blister a little bit, and then when you're running, instead of like any friction moving the skin, it will move the pad, like, because there's a bit of kind of movement give there. Okay, never done that before. So yeah, that was the best way of getting it comfortable enough. Obviously it's still going to hurt a little bit, but relieving the pressure by popping it and then padding it up like that, it was the best. Blister plasters, my experience with those, yeah, it would relieve a lot of the pain, but then as soon as I'd do any faster running again, again, this is a bit gross, but like, because the blister plaster, the glue actually sticks too firmly to the skin, I was just effectively kind of ripping the skin as I would be running. Like, the friction would go on the plaster, but then it would still rip the skin. So yeah, there was disgusting occasions where I'd take my sock off and carnage. Sorry. Right, so how to prevent that even happening in the first place? Quite obvious really in some ways, but if you know, like I say, I knew as soon as like my feet would get hot and sweaty, that I was going to run in spikes, I was very likely to get a blister. So I would put tape on the areas where I knew I was likely to get them. I would put talcum powder on the feet to absorb some of the sweat. It's actually really quite effective, that. And this one is an antiseptic powder as well, so that's even better, just from Boots, although that's probably about 15 years old now, so yeah, you might want to see what else there is now. And then really key thing as well is to wear 2 pairs of socks, but no ordinary socks, because sometimes socks can make your feet sweaty. But I found, and I only ever found it was Nike that did suitable socks, but these are really, really breathable. I don't know if you can kind of tell, they're quite sort of netty, and they're really sort of fine, and so they would stay next to my foot, so that when I was running again, any friction would rub against the sock and the sock wouldn't move, instead of rubbing against my skin. But also equally important as the base layer is to have a nice cushioned top layer to go over it as well. Nothing special these, but they're just a little bit padded. And those 2 things together, like I say, the friction would be there rather than skin. Also works quite well with like the compression socks, because they're quite tight up against your foot as well. The only thing with that is that my feet would sweat a bit more in these than they would do in these nice ones here. So yes, I think these might have been the socks I ran my PB in even. Yeah, just a useful bit of info there. Okay, yeah, I think that covers it. Oh, just to say as well why I don't use surgical spirits to prevent. I did go down that route. I would walk around with cotton wool taped to my foot, like stinking of surgical spirits, and it would harden up the skin, but then I would still get blisters underneath the hard skin, and in some ways that was even worse, because it was an even deeper blister. So yeah, much better just to use these methods that I've just discovered through much trial and error. And I suppose on a deeper level in terms of prevention as well, and the reason why I would get blisters so much was because I did run quite on my toes, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I ran on my toes and I was quite upright, and so I was having to absorb a lot of force through the feet, and so that's why there was all this sort of the braking and accelerating. And I will be posting a few videos on here fairly soon, I hope, in which I talk a little bit about how I've changed my technique since back in the day, and I'm less upright and I've got more of a lean, and yeah, I reckon given my time again, I wouldn't have got as many blisters running the way that I do now. So watch this space. Okay, hope that helped. Good luck and bye.